I came to a realization a few years ago that I'm not perfect. As much as I would like to think that I am perfect and that I have everything together, um, the more I live my life, the more I realize that I will never be perfect, and I don't have to be. As when I started out in my Christian walk, I thought I had to have it all together. I had to have all the answers from the Bible, and I want those things, and I want those things to be true of me, but I'm not perfect. And being able to admit that is actually break down a lot of the barriers, because many people think that Christians think they have it all together, but when you tell them that you're just as screwed up as they are in some things, it's really disarming for them, and it's helpful for them too to see that I don't have all the answers. I'm actually trying to find out some of the same answers they are as I'm walking together with God.
It's easy to hide behind masks, and society demands that we have it all together, and that if we don't have it all together, that we need to fake it. And unfortunately, in my experience, I've seen that to be true even for us as the church, that we still want to pretend like we have no issues and that we have no struggles and that we're always happy with God.
I think the other issue is like the vulnerability issue, right? And I'm sometimes scared to be vulnerable with people, say things that are in the closets of my life or places I'm scared to go even. And it's the same thing. If I truly believe the gospel, which you could say is the spirit-filled life, if I keep believing that in my life day by day, moment by moment, then the fear of being vulnerable and the fear of being authentic, it subsides a little bit. It doesn't go away completely. It's not like I just feel completely bold with every part of my life, but I'm at least taking a step of faith to share.
I think one of the scariest parts and the best part about using your story is that you are really vulnerable, and people really relate to vulnerability and are able to connect with that and are able to feel more safe with you as well if they realize that you're first taking that step to be vulnerable.
People hate being lied to. People hate being duped. People hate hate becoming at the receiving end of some kind of salesman or a sales pitch. And inauthenticity is all of those things. It is someone trying to dupe you. It is someone trying to sell you something. It is someone trying to convince you that something is better than you actually think it is. So, I mean, the more authentic you are, the more real you are, the more real Jesus becomes to them. And yeah, I mean, like, we really want students to meet Jesus. That's what we're all about. And people are going to meet Jesus through us. If we are inauthentic, people will think that Jesus is inauthentic.
You can kind of be whoever you want on Facebook, but it's a lot different in real life. So being real with people, I think, speaks really loud to their lives.
I think if you're lying, you're really impeding the Spirit's work, and you don't understand how God could use you. If you're not really moved by that and you don't really understand that you're a vessel of the Holy Spirit, then yeah, maybe the temptation will be there to lie. And for me, it is there sometimes. I'm not gonna, to embellish a little bit, maybe not lie, but just embellish a little bit. And I think what I've realized in my own life is I just actually don't trust God. I don't trust God that He could use me and use my story to actually connect with people.
After I got back from my stint year, I went through close to about 2 years of being sick and worn out and tired, and I was so down that there was no possible way I could hold up or upkeep all the masks that I had on, and I didn't even know I had any on until it was all ripped away from me. And in and through that time, God made it very clear to me that He didn't want me to be a robot. He didn't expect me to have it all together, and rather He loved to pour out grace when I was humble and broken, not when I had it all together.
There's both highs and lows with being real with my friends and other people. Sometimes being real with people can really hurt because they might not love you the same way, they might react a way that you're not expecting, or in a way that you wouldn't prefer. They it might change the dynamic of your relationship, which can be really difficult. So that's a potential low, but I would say the majority of the times that I've stepped out and actually been vulnerable and real with someone has ended really well, even if it went through maybe a low patch in between.
It doesn't mean that you don't have to, you do have to do some personal thinking and digging. So it doesn't mean, let's say you're dealing with issues of intimacy. And I'm like, wow, I don't really think about that ever. It doesn't mean that it's not something that plays out in my life. So sometimes it just takes some work to think about it. And that's still being authentic, even though it may not be the highest felt need in my own life.
At the end of the day, if we're being inauthentic, that's actually saying that we trust our own selves more than we trust God to bring people to Himself. But it's safe to be authentic because what we're actually saying that me being authentic has nothing to do with, like, if I'm authentic, that's not going to prevent people from coming to faith at all. If I'm actually being a broken person, if I'm actually being real with people, sharing my flaws and weaknesses, that's not going to prevent people from coming to Him, because at the end of the day, people will be coming to God because of what God's doing in their lives, because of what Christ is doing in their lives.
If God truly does accept me for who I am, and, you know, in spite of who I am almost, if that's true, then why be anything other than authentic?
I challenge, whether it's students or friends or family, that we don't have it all together. We need to stop pretending, because that is a huge weight to carry that we're not called or commanded to.
The benefits definitely outweigh the costs of being open with someone, of sharing your story, and even of sometimes having them reject your story or reject you because of your story, because God is going to use that to change your life and probably to speak to theirs as well, even if it doesn't seem like that in the moment.
As long as we're ourselves, people will be drawn to Christ just through us because of who He is, not because of who we are.